Aleph by the Gemara. It starts at Tana Rabbana. It's the first wide line on the top of Kaf Chesam and Aleph. That's where we're up to today. We're going to be talking about the sugya of the Mabul, which is interesting. The Mabul happened in Cheshvan. Cheshvan, you say Mashrich V'Regesh. We're coming to Pesach. Okay, so we have some. It's Kaf Chesam and Aleph.
Beginning of the Gemara over there?
Beginning of the Gemara, yeah. See the first wide line, Tana Rabbanan. All right, Dor HaMabul, Ein Lam Chelik L'Olam Haba. No, right? Newsflash, Dor HaMabul, Ein Lam Chelik L'Olam Haba. Surprise, surprise, shocking, yeah. Shenemar, Vayimach Eskol HaYakum Asher Al Pnei Adama. Vayimach Eskol HaYakum Ba'olam Hazeh. Hashem wiped out the entire establishment Ba'olam Hazeh V'Yimochu Min HaOretz, and it says afterwards again, they were wiped away from Oretz. Interestingly, in all these psukim, Oretz is always referring to Olam Haba. Yeah? Remember the Rachaim HaKadosh in Parashas Kisavei says, Kisavei ela Oretz, to bring Bikurim. So he teaches Kisavei ela Oretz, and Parashas Kisavei is la Olam Haba. Right? And he says that you got to bring Bikurim, you got to bring the best of the best up there. You know, whatever the Reishis Priyad Mascha. In this world, you got to bring up there. And it would say, Eretz over here always means, in this context at least, Olam Haba. Rabbi Kiva says they don't have a chilkan Haba. Rabbi Yehuda say Roimer loy chayin v'loy nidainin. They don't get resurrected by Tchias HaMesim, and also they don't get judged by the Yom Hadin Hagadol v'Hanoiro, which is going to take place by Tchias HaMesim. So they don't have Tchias HaMesim and they don't get judged. Now you might ask, what do you mean if they don't get resurrected by Tchias HaMesim? Obviously, they're not going to get judged because only once you get resurrected is there a judgment. But as we'll see soon, it could be that they could get resurrected just for the sake of being judged, and then they die again. Yeah. No, they weren't very nice. Shenemar la yodan ruchi ba'adam la'olam loy din v'loy ruach davar acher la yodan ruchi shleitin shmasen chazeres lenedana. What does it mean, la yodan ruchi? That their neshama is not going to go back into their holder. The guf is the holder. I just listened to a shiur from Rav Zamir Cohen, in Hebrew. If anybody listens to a shiur from him, it's Gan Eden Mamish. Anyway, he was talking about Shiur Gilgulim, the first page in Shiur Gilgulim in the Arizal, and he says it's kedai to remember the language of the Arizal in the Shiur Gilgulim. He writes, I didn't remember the language yet, but he writes how, we are not our bodies, we are our souls, and the body is the levush for the soul. It's the holder, so to speak, for our neshamas. So it's not going to go back. Interesting, the lashon over here is for the body, lindona, to its nartik, to its holder. Even when there's tchias hamesim la'ased lavai, nishmasan kashalem begehenim. Even if Hashem would put back their neshama to their guf, it would be so damaging because it would be so hot from the fire of the Gehenim, it would basically consume their bodies. So you wouldn't even be able to, it's like a plastic cup. You put hot water in it, it melts immediately, like a really hot water. You put a neshama that's hot from the Gehenim, it's hot off the press from the Gehenim into the body, it's going to melt.
Is that a Jewish thing that Gehenim is hot, or is that like a Christian thing?
It's called an Eish Shel Gehenim. Yeah, we're going to see right here. Shenemer Taharu Chashash Teildu Kash Ruchachem Eish Techalchem. The Gemara is referring to the Eish of the Gehenim over here. It's going to consume from within, the body from within, because the Neshama is inside the body. So is it actually hot? That's what you want to know? Or not? The Gemara in the Dorm says, famous Gemara, I think it's Daf Ches, the Gemara says, Rish Lakish says that L'asad Lavit will be the Shemesh, right? Hashem will take out the Shemesh with the Araganas, and tzaddikim misrapim ba, erishoim nedoinen ba. It'll be the same sun that'll heal the tzaddikim, and they'll have the body that can handle the heat, the neshama that can handle the heat, but they won't. So I'm not sure if it's actual.
Are heated from the fires of Gehenna.
Gemara on Shabbos, very good. The Gemara says tolda de eish, right? The Gemara says that Chami Taveri is tolda de eish. So interesting. And we had it in Baba Basra as well. No, the Gemara asks, what color is the sun? Is it actually white or is it red? Right? The Gemara says, is it white or red? And the Gemara says,
yes.
Is it red from the Eish of the Gehenna, but it's really white? Or it's really red, but it gets whitened. I'm not sure exactly how. From the rose, it's really. I don't remember the Gemara. Okay, I don't remember. Gemara's on, I believe, Daf Pei Beis. Yeah. Sichra.
Yeah, the sun.
Yeah.
Right, the sun. I remember
Amazing.
The sun.
Yeah.
Picturing the sun.
Anyways, what do I want to say? Yeah, it's interesting because Rav Chaim Kanievsky actually uses the Gemara talking about the sun being told of Eish. Comes Pesach right now. There's Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says that matzah that's baked by the sun is not can't be yotze the mitzvah with matzah that's baked by the sun. So they ask, what do you mean?
That was the original, the OG matzah.
That was the OG matzah. It was the original matzah, right? It was baked by the sun.
Right, very good.
All right. That's Rav Chaim Kanievsky tells the Gemara about Basra Pei Beis. The Gemara says that the sun in the morning is red because of the Eish of Gehenim. So told of Eish does work. So when did they leave Mitzrayim? They left Mitzrayim when it was still, I think it was like in the it was like still in the morning, like when it still had the red of the Gehenim, then that sun is okay. Depends what time of the day the sun will cook the matzah, will bake the matzah. It's definitely hot. The question is it told to the Eish? So only up to a certain point of the day is it told to the Eish. Very interesting. Anyways.
It's interesting because Bishul B'chama, the Gemara says, is mutter.
Right.
Even though matzah was Bishul B'chama.
Yeah. Over there, the Gemara says, right, Bishul B'chama is mutter.
Completely, even
Hagam,
you can cook in the sun.
Yeah.
Mutter on Shabbos?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can fry an egg.
Not told us chama.
Not told us chama because of told the Eish. It's
Right.
confusion, right?
Right.
But the actual chama, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not there of Bishul.
Which daf?
I don't remember.
I'm just kidding.
That I know from the Shulchan Aruch. I don't think I know from the Gemara.
Okay. Right.
If the springs of Tiberia are heated from the Gehenim, then is Gehenim in the ground or not?
It's a great question. It's great. The geographical location of Gehenim. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's an interesting concept. That's what Avi is also asking. Like, is Enem real fire? Gehenim real fire?
We also talk about
Yeah, where would it be?
Suns, right, when they get swallowed up from the mouth, right, and you can hear them. Right, every Chodesh.
Gemara Basra, right?
Yeah, the
They can
ground.
just
Ayin.
Idolatry, yeah.
scream from Gehenna, right? That's what they're doing.
Right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's like the Eish of. It says over there the Eish of Gehenim.
Right.
It's in the ground.
It says in the ground.
Smoke comes out.
Right,
They saw
right,
smoke
right.
coming out.
Volcanoes.
Ahutaya, right. All right, listen, look at that. We go through Shas. You think we're learning the Kavchasam in Sanhedrin? It's amazing. I'm not. This shiur for let me the Chachamim. Taner Rabbanan. Dor HaMabul in his goal b'shvil Tova sheshpiel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The whole Dor HaMabul is arrogant. It's usually like that. Hashem is good. It's Mishpia Tova, right? What does the Torah say? That Pen Yiftal Avavchem, right? You'll have all the Tovas, and then you go off. Amaksiv behem bateim shalom epachad. Right? The Gemara is going to bring psukim that describe the incredible brachas that they had in the Dor HaMabul. Bateim shalom epachad. They didn't have mazikim. V'lo yishevet aleha lehayim. They didn't have the Peronius. Iksiv sheirei iber v'lo yagel tfalet perosiv v'lo seshakel. No animal ever miscarried. Iksiv v'shalchu katzoin avileihem. And they're able to send the young tzoin into the fields without any shepherds, and they would just come back and they would just raise themselves. V'yaldein yirakedon. And their children would be able to dance in the streets and not be afraid. They'll listen to music. They have sweet, good years. And the time that comes to die, they'll die in a second. They won't experience the pain of death. And this itself, this tova, this incredible tova that Hashem was mashpi on the Dor HaMabul, caused them to rebel. And they said, yeah, remove yourself from us, and we don't want your ways. What to Elis, what benefit do we have if we serve you? And what benefit are we going to have if we daven to you? We only need rain. We only need a Kadosh Baruch Hu for the rain. Even that we don't need really. We have Nahar Samayonis, we have rivers and well springs. Wow, with the very good that I was mashpia to you. This is what you're angering me with? That's what I'm going to judge you with. Behold, I'm bringing Mabul unto the world. This is interesting. The Dor HaMabul were arrogant because of their galgal ha'ayin. They went after the galgal einayim. What does that mean? Because they looked at places and people they shouldn't. Shenema v'ikchelam noshim b'kola shebacharu. They took even married women. B'kola shebacharu, whoever they wanted. They married Eishes Ish. Lefikach don oisam b'mayim. That's why Hashem punished them with mayim. Shedoim v'galgal ha'ayin, because the mayim is similar to the galgal ha'ayin. Why? Because from the ayin you have tears. You have water flowing from the eye, and the mayin it flows water from there. So Hashem paid him back from a mayin which is doim la'ayin. Shenem nifku kol mayinas ta'im rabba v'rubas shamayim niftachu. Hashem opened the mayinas ta'im rabba, the mayan which actually has in it the word ayin because it puts out water. Amar b'yechna dar mabul b'rabba kilkul rabba nadainu. It says rabba by both. Barabba kilkalu, Shenamba v'yashem karabba rasa adam. Hashem saw that their ways were very evil. Barabba nidainu, Shenamba nifka kol minus time rabba over there also. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, shloishin eshtayru mehem. There were 3 mayonos, hot springs that were left from the Dar Mabul. Here we go. Look at that. Bloya de gader v'chame tveria. Look at that. V'ayin yirabasi dviram. The minor God loved dviram. Unbelievable. Okay, so the Gemara vai to kish kol pasas dakel orz Rabbi Yochanan malamet should be beim alchay v'chay b'heim v'akoil lo dem odem alakoil. Basically, there might be everybody and everybody. They are mating with any type of min, chayas and behemoths and people. Amar Rabbi Abba bar kahana v'kulam chazru. After the Mabul, all the balechayim started mating with their own men. Chutz mutushlami. It's a type of bird that still is misdavig with anyone and anybody. That's the type of bird that never did tshuva even after the Mabul. Which is really interesting because the question is, we'll see in the Gemara that any bird that actually that was over and mated with another min didn't make it into the teva. So they couldn't have survived. So what do you mean? Chutz m'tushlami. How did Tishlami make it onto the teva? Except for the raven. The raven.
No, the raven did it on the table. I'm sorry. That was on the table.
That was a different
You're
chait.
saying before.
Yeah. Before, the Gemara is going to say that the teva wouldn't absorb any chayer behema that did an aveira. So how did you have Tishlami? We'll see in a moment.
Tigers, they are also these mean animals.
They had all these men animals, but I'm talking about like mating with someone who's not their men.
Well, they needed an innocent animal.
Yeah.
Counter.
Yeah.
It's not immoral, it's like their nature.
What, are you saying like the dinosaurs?
Oh.
I know when that's a shot.
No, the dinosaurs.
How could dinosaurs be immoral? They had little hands.
Vegetarians,
How much does heck have even made in the first place? They have like the long tails and everything, and the spikes on their backs.
Right.
Okay, maybe.
Pre-Mabul era.
Right.
Yeah, the pre-Mabul era.
The dinosaurs.
There's a chazal somewhere that two Amiram were walking and they saw a cave and there were dinosaurs. There was dinosaur bones in the cave, and they said to each other, "This is from the pre-Mabul." And the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to leave these bones for people to remember the Mabul, to remember what, I don't remember where this chazal is, but yeah, that to take lesson, to take note. I think I should look it up. Maybe I'll bring it tomorrow. How dangerous or how powerful the negative force of chamas, of gezel is. They're over on all Shavim mitzvahs, right? In other words, Hashem didn't forgive them until they were over on gezel. By the way, gezel, chamas is really one of the Shavim mitzvahs b'nei Noach, right? How do you remember the Shavim mitzvahs b'nei Noach? Very easy way, by the way, to remember Shavim mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Aleph Beis Gimel Daled.
3 big ones.
And the 3 big ones, right? 3 big ones, Shloisha Chamuras, Gilei Rayas, Shfichas Dam, and Avodah Zarah. And then you have Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. What did Aleph Beis Gimel Daled stand for? Aver Menachai, Birkas Hashem, Gezel, and Dayanim. You have to establish courts. So, oh wow, you have the Shavim mitzvahs b'nei Noach on the card? Let me see.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
That's great.
AskNoah.org. I want you to know. I've met Noahides. I interviewed a Noahide in Wichita, Kansas. Yeah. Wow. Imamish, mezuzahs on his door. He wants to be a Jew, but he knows 613 is too much for him. So he says, too much for me, but he keeps Sheva mitzvahs b'nei religiously. Yeah.
Does he learn about
And
it?
according to one opinion of the Gemara, those who keep Sheva mitzvahs b'nei are called chasidei umas ha'olam. They have a chelik l'olam haba. According to one opinion of the Gemara. Yeah.
Does he
It's
learn
not
about
Shabbos.
it?
Huh?
He learns about the Sheva Mitzvah in
Avada, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the famous film Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, is based on a real person who was a Noahide. His name was Vendel Jones, and Vendel Jones, he dedicated his life to finding, the Ark, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he spent his life in the Qumran, 30, 40 years digging. He found a sample of the Ketores. He found unbelievable. Incredible life, and he was a Noahide. He kept Shem Mitzvah B'nai Noach, grew up in Texas, and and I met his driver. He passed away already, buried in Israel, and I met his driver, the one who was his partner in crime for many years, and he told me, he said, he has a letter from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from Sephardic Chief Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, from Gedolim, who were encouraging him, saying, teach as many non-Jews Shem Mitzvah B'nai Noach. But upon him, here you have,
Interview the Amish?
huh?
You ever interview the Amish?
No, we should. I should do that. No, that would be super interesting.
That's a good one.
They have their special in Harvard.
They do have, yeah,
In the Old Testament.
but no electricity, no technology is not part of the Shem Mitzvah B'nai Noach. I think that a little bit.
They have their thing.
Yeah, their thing. Have their thing.
Take
Yeah,
that over West Hollywood.
yeah.
Yeah. You know?
Why West Hollywood? Yeah,
This is like the mumble.
Mamish. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They'll never survive.
So the Gemara says, Hashem says, Chamas is the worst. I guess out of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, interesting. The worst, the one that I guess triggered the Mabul, finally the straw that broke the camel's back was Chamas, was Gezel. So Hashem says, Omer B'lozim, Alamed, Shezokaf Atzmai B'makamakel, Hashem stood up straight like a stick, the Chamas stood up like a stick in front of Hashem, said, Reinu Shloim, Loi Mehem, V'loi Mehamoyna, V'loi Mehameim, V'loi Noya Behem. Shenemer Noyach Behem. The Gemara says,
is it kidnapping or is it gezel? Like property theft or is it kidnapping?
Hamas is Gezel.
Gezel.
Hamas is Gezel, yeah. Hamas. I mean, because Hamas is hostages, he's saying, like, maybe that's...
I thought Hamas is violence.
Hamas is violence, right? But it's violence related to money, like to... It's Gezel. That's what so the Gemara says here. Yeah. Gemara says, Boyurei kama godel koicha shel Chamas shel lenechtem agzil achman Gezel shenemar kimola oretz Chamas. Gemara is interpreting Chamas as Gezel over here. All right, Tod Baby Shmuel. Afal Noyach. Oh, Reb Shmuel. Tod Baby Shmuel. Afal Noyach nechtach gzar din al shamotzachim ben Hashem shenemar nichamti ki asisa v'noyach motzachim ben Hashem. Even on Noyach, the gzar din was, and Hashem says, no, Noyach motzachim ben Hashem. He got saved, especially was Noysachein in the eyes of Hashem. It's interesting, even though Noach was a tzaddik, Tamim Hay B'Deroisav, still he would have been wiped away with the Rishonim. He would have been wiped away with the Rishonim. So it doesn't help to be a tzaddik when there's a gzeira, right? The Malach HaMashchis is not mafchin bein tzaddik l'rosha, right? That's why by Pesach Hashem had to come himself to save Klal Yisrael, because Bekivan Shenitin Rishus L'Mashchis L'Hashchis, he's not mafchin bein tzaddik l'rosha. So over here the Gemara is saying,
למה זה נקרא ליל שימורים? הזוהר פרשת בו אומר שלהבדיל מימים טובים אחרים, להבדיל משבתות, השם שולח לכל אחד מישראל 4 מלאכים. גבריאל, מיכאל, אוריאל, רפאל, ועל שכינת...
על ראשי שכינת, כן.
כן. כל אחד ואחד, בגלל זה נקרא ליל שימורים, כך אומר הזוהר הקדוש.
Wow.
Chazal say, doesn't Chazal say that they didn't go because there's so much Tama?
The Malachim didn't want to go there because there was so much Tama? Interesting. It could be, but maybe the Malach is Chabola. Meaning the Malachim, but they're evil Malachim. The evil Malachim, would they mind to come and even the evil Malachim? You're saying there was that much Tama?
Why would the evil Malachim go if they're doing a good thing?
Interesting. But over here we say that Noach would have been wiped out, but he had a special Nesiyas Chain. Nir, nice to see you. Yeah. So we're up to Kofches Amid Aleph. Over here, Vayinochem Hashem ki osa sa'odam ba'aretz. It's toward, where am I up to? Toward the bottom? Is that toward the bottom already? Yeah. It's like 15 lines from the bottom. So the Gemara says, "Ki Osir Rav Dimi." When Rav Dimi came for Yisrael to Bavel, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Yafas Yish Dekantam Kfaras Ba'aretz. Hashem says the word Nichum, he was comforted. He said, "Oh, it's good that I had the Mabul come on these Rishonim. This way they were buried in the Aretz." My mashma. How do you know that V'yinocha means comfort. It means esratzos. It says that he spoke words of comfort on their hearts. After Yaakov Avinu passed away, the Shvatim spoke to Yosef, and Yosef spoke to Shvatim, saying, "Don't worry about it." So you see, Nichum is called comfort. Hashem said, other way around. Hashem regretted giving them kvaras ba'aretz. In other words, I wish I didn't kill them. Maybe they would have been chayzrim b'tshuva. By the Egel, it says Hashem regretted that he wanted to bring bad, evil onto the Jewish people. So you see, Veinochem means both. It's interesting. I want to tell you. I know that it's Mesiras Nefesh to come Erev Pesach to Daf Yomi. Everybody's a lot going on at home, so I want to honor everybody here. It's not easy. Daf Yomi, it doesn't sleep, so you got it. You can't.
You know, it's matzah.
It's matzah. It's getting you out of the house. So good.
because of shalom bayis. Sometimes when the husband's away,
Yeah.
it's more shalom. It's
better.
Right. You know, there's a famous letter to the Chasam Sofer, and one of the Chuvas, maybe, I believe. One of the Chuvas, Chasam Sofer writes, Erev Pesach, he's writing at Erev Pesach, and he says, I don't have a certain Sefer that I need, ki gershuni noshim tzedkonius min habayis, because the noshim tzedkonius, they basically threw me out of the house, because they were cleaning. But the point is that some people have a tremendous establish. Pesach has, his business is booming right now. He can be having haircuts and giving haircuts, by the way. Great, I'm using him tomorrow night, or Tuesday night, for my whole family. And he's here, he comes, and he's like, no, I have a time to learn, and I can't, so I want to honor that. Gavaldig. And his number is, okay, millions of, put it on the screen. Pesach Kat.
It's kosher place.
Cut to the chase. Okay. So the Gemara. Eila told us Noach. Noach is tzaddik tomah by b'deraisav. We're up to the famous pasuk. Your bar mitzvah parsha?
Yours is also
Your
nice.
mamish came. Yours also?
Yeah.
Psst.
Nice.
Gewaldig. Okay. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. The famous Rabbi Yochanan.
A few years before me.
Comes Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, B'doi roisav. V'loi b'doi zacherim. Don't get too excited about Noach. Famous Rashi, if he would have been Dosh Lavrom, he wouldn't have been such a tzaddik. Rabbi Yochanan comes and puts a damper on the compliment that the Torah gives to Noach. The Torah, without Rabbi Yochanan, you would read the passage and say, wow, Noach is tzaddik, Tomai, the rest of you think he's a mamish gevaldik tzaddik. Comes, Rabbi Yochanan says, not so fast. By the way, the Be'er Sheva wants to know, how could Rabbi Yochanan do this? Mir Shal Rabbi Yochanan, who allowed Rabbi Yochanan to take a pasuk in the Torah, a compliment, Noach is tzaddik tamar b'deraisav, and downgrade it, right, and minimize it, and say, no, b'deraisav v'loi b'derais shel Avram Avinu. He mamish is bothered by it. So he says that he brings. I saw from the Ben Yehoyada. Ben Yehoyada brings from a sefer Be'er Sheva. The Be'er Sheva says that for many years it was troubling him until he found a medrash. The Medrash Rabbah, and the Medrash Rabbah says, famous Rashi later in Parshas Noach, when Noach came into the Teva, it says, Rashi says he was a mamin ve'enoi mamin. He was a mamin ve'enoi mamin. He was hesitant. Who is the one that darshans he was a mamin ve'enoi mamin? Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan. So says the Be'er Sheva, I understand now. Now I understand. Because he saw in the words over there that he was pushed in from the Mea Mabul because it's Mamad Ve'ena Mamad. Rabbi Yochanan said it's Mamish almost before he's there. So must be when it says that he was a tzaddik, but the Reis of Allah B'der Zacheir. Now Ben Yehoyada says, I don't like it. It's still shver. What do you mean? If you have a problem with him darshaning, but the Reis of, it's not, he wouldn't have been a tzaddik in other generations, so why is he darshaning negatively that pasuk as well? So we'll get to that in a moment. The Ben Yehoyada has a beautiful pshat over here. So the Gemara says like this: a very shlokish amar b'dei roisav kolshkem b'dei zacherim. And Shlokish says b'dei roisav kolshkem b'dei zacherim. He would have been. Imagine if it's kulei rishoyim and he's a tzaddik. He's not influenced. Imagine if he would have been around the Baba Sali. He would have been around the Baal Shem Tov, Rebbe Lamelech from Lezhensk, and Rashi, Rebbe Kiva Shem B'Echai. He would have been such a great. He would have been unbelievable. Okay.
He was on the back of the wagon.
He was the back of the wagon of the best. Yeah. So, by the way, if you take a look at Rashi, the Chassidish Sfarim, Amedayik in the Rashi and Chumash says, Yesh Dorshim Lignai, V'Rabbi Seinu Dorshim L'Shvach. So the Medayik in the Lashon Rashi, Rashi say, Rabbi Seinu Dorshim Lignai, V'Rabbi Seinu Dorshim L'Shvach. Says Yesh Dorshim Lignai. Yeah? Some say Lignai, V'Rabbi Seinu Dorshim Lignai. But the truth is, it's not so simple because over here you see it's Rabbi Yochanan and it's Rabbi Seinu. It's Rabbi Yochanan. It's not Yesh like Rashi's, but it's really Rabbi Yochanan. We have to understand exactly why Rabbi Yochanan did that. Omer Rav Chanina, Mashal Rabbi Yochanan, Lamad Davar Daima. Where's Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan wants to compare it. If you have a barrel of wine that's sitting with other barrels of vinegar, when the wine is amongst the barrels of vinegars, the contrast, right, makes the wine smell delicious. Smell the wine, it's delicious, right? It's mamish good. You're going to like a washroom, right? And they have on the wall. They have some, good smelly stuff. The spritzer, right? So when you're in the bathroom, the spritzers, right? There it smells good. Oh, Hashem, some relief. But if you take the spritzer out, if you put it if you bring it, put it outside, if nobody smelled, it smells good when there's a contrast of the washroom and other smells. But if you put it outside, nobody's paying attention. Rav Ashi says no, differently. Shlokish compared to a bottle of perfume. Bottle of perfume, it smells delicious wherever it is, even in a bathroom. If you walk into a perfume shop, it smells unbelievable, right? It smells delicious. So here, the Ben Yehoyada wants to say the emes is that Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are not arguing. It says in the Torah, Eila told us Noach ish tzaddik. It says Noach twice, and we darshan that Noach la shemayim v'Noach la brias. That it was Noach la shemayim and Noach la brias. Says Rabbi Yochanan that he was Noach la brias not so fast. If he would have been really Noach la brias, he would have saved his generation. Kimei Noach zoisli. He didn't change. He didn't save his generation. So how Noach la brias could you already be? Avram tried to save Sedoi. Moshe Rabbeinu saved Klal Yisrael. If you would have been another generation compared to other Gedolei Hadar, they were really Noach Labrias, right? They were really Noach Labrias. So the Noach Labrias, there Rabbi Yochanan is darshaning, no. In his generation, you can call him Noach, but if you would have been in other generations, that kind of Noach doesn't pass, right? You have to be able to protect your whole generation if you're really Noach Labrias. And Rish Lakish is darshaning the second Noach l'shamayim. Noach l'shamayim means, imagine, if ben adam l'makam, you stay true to who you are in a volatile environment, kal v'chomer, if you have the environment, the right environment, how much you would grow. You know what they say, why we make a l'chaim on alcohol, right? Why an alcohol? Why not an orange juice? Why not a grape juice? Why an alcohol? Because they say if you put the alcohol in the freezer, it stays true to who it is. If you put orange juice in the freezer, it succumbs to the environment, right? It freezes, but alcohol always stays true to itself. So when we raise a glass, l'chaim, life, you have to have chiyas metech atzmi. In other words, you have to have from within, so you're not influencing your environment. Says Rish Lakish, he was a tzaddik in that environment. Kavachaimer, in the freezer, he can stay true to who he is. Kavachaimer can stay true even if he's another generation. Says the Gemara. It says Hashem wiped out the entire establishment. Asks the Gemara, I understand the person is chayta, but a behema, why did Hashem wipe out the behemoths? It's interesting because the Gemara just said the behemoths also were chayta. The behemoths also did something wrong. It's interesting why the Gemara would ask such a question. Huh? Yeah. Right. The Kelev went with the Ze'ev, the Tanagoylis went to the Tabas. So what does it mean, behema machota? What does that mean? Yeah.
It means why to get punished.
It could be, what it means is that the Bnei Adam were Goyrim. The Goyrim, they were the Goyrim for the behemoths. A person can affect his environment. It's unbelievable. That's what the Gemara is asking. They were the ones who affected the environment. So Ibn said the behemoth is really almost like an oinus. And then his son dies. He prepares a whole wedding, and he invites people, and then his son dies. Nebuch. Omar the pizas chupas. He takes all the food that he prepared, and he is mafazer it, and he gives it away. Omar klum esisi el b'shvil b'ni. The whole reason why I made this chuppah is for my son. Achshav shemeis chuppah lumali. What do I need? Avakadosh Baruch Hu. Omar klum brasi b'heim v'chaya el b'shvil adam. Achshav she'adam chayta b'heim v'chaya lumali. By the way, this is unbelievable because over here we live in a generation where they value animals more than people. Yeah. And here, what is the Gemara saying? We're saying, if I don't have people, what do I need animals for, right? Hashem wipes out the animals, even if they might not be amazing, even if that might not be at fault. But over here, like as you see people walking their dogs, I have nothing against owning dogs. dogs. Yeah, like it's
There's something wrong with our
nauseating.
society, yeah.
What is wrong? And they have hotels for dogs, and they have besakvaras for dogs, and they have beauty parlors for dogs. And there's mamash and people.
They treat them better than
Kepnei Akelev. They
them
treat
better than
them
seniors.
better than seniors. They treat animals better than people. And here you have.
Children talk back, dogs don't talk back.
That's what somebody told me. I said, "What do you?" He says it's much easier to live with a dog. Yeah.
Define easier.
I always said
Huh?
when they
Define easier.
Define easier. Right.
He's living
When they-
better or
as they
easier.
cry
That's the
when
question.
they-
Aha. Which
They
one?
get better off. They have better relationship with animals than with people.
They have better relationships with animals than with people.
The animals don't argue with them so much.
Yes.
No, go work.
What about
Yeah.
human animals?
They don't.
They know that the one who feeds them, they don't bite the one who feeds
Yeah.
Some of them do.
them. Most don't.
Achshav, this is the line that we take. Achshav she'odam chayte behema v'chaya lomali. If an odam is chayte behema v'chaya lomali, it's an unbelievable line. Okay, says the Gemara. Mikola shebachuravu mesu v'loy dogim shebayam. The dogim did not die because there's no. By the way, dogim cannot possibly. The Mefarshim explains. Yod explains they can't be marbia. They can't. They can only mate with. So therefore, they weren't chayte, and that's why the dogim were the only ones.
כן, אבל איך הם
That-
לא מתו? המים היו רותחים.
So only the upper waters. The lower waters weren't. You want to see?
Three amos or what? The
Huh?
Hamilton was wiped out. It was the first 3 or 4 amos was.
Yeah, that's right.
No,
That's
for
right.
the
The waters, only the top levels of the waters were hot.
But the lower one
Sticking
was
or
still.
beguiling into fish.
Well, you know, Kabbalah.
Shol, אתה שומע, קבלה. צדיקים are נסגלגל in fish.
שמעתי, מה אמרת?
Sticking or
אה,
beguiling into fish.
it's interesting.
Okay, gewaltig. Dorish Reb Yossi, Demin Kesari, Mai Dechsiv, Kalu al pnei mayim tekal chol kosem ba'oretz.
אבל לא היו שם צדיקים אז. מה התגלגלו?
Right.
באמת התגלגלו?
Especially the character.
We're about to learn of the first Kiruv organization that failed. Okay, this is an epic failure. Dorish Reb Yossi, Kalu al pnei mayim tekul chol kosem ba'oretz. Malamet shay noyach hatzadik b'chiyach behem, v'oimer l'masu tshuva. Noach HaTzadik was standing there and said, "Do tshuva." And HaKadosh Baruch Hu mei v'alichem es hamabul, u'makpen evlaschem al hamayim kazikin. Shenemar kalu al pnei mayim. He says, otherwise Hashem will take your bodies, nevelis, your corpses, and it'll float on the water like jugs of made from leather. Kalu al pnei mayim. That's imagine trying to do make about tshuva like that. Yeah. Tell him, threaten him. I remember I was in a plane. Oh gosh. I was in a plane once. It was turbulence, heavy turbulence, and I was doing tshuva. You know, like when you're on a plane and there's heavy turbulence, there's nowhere to. I was doing tshuva, and there was an Israeli guy next to me, and we didn't speak the whole flight. The whole flight we weren't talking. He was reading his book. I fell asleep, and we were both like all of a sudden shaken out of complacency when the turbulence began. And then
Can I ask where you're flying to?
I was flying actually from. Okay, that's not relevant to the story, but like there's Israel actually. And suddenly he grabs my hand and he says, "Kvod Harav, צריכים לשנות. I said, Shai, he told me his name at the beginning of the flight. I said, Shai, אתה צודק, צריכים לעשות תשובה, אבל עכשיו צריכים לעשות תשובה. He looks at me and says,
איך עושים תשובה?
תשובה? He says, תשובה? לא, אני אומר, צריכים לשנות את הדרך, את הקו של המטוס. I was like, oh, never mind. That's a failed Kiruv attempt right there. Anyway, so point is, Noach tried to make Bali Tshuva, and he failed, epic failure. I was listening to Sully Bornstein, and he was tining.
I guess he wasn't Lubavitch.
He was, and he was tining. He was saying, how could he stand there for 120 years and he try to make about tshuva and not make about tshuva? So he quotes the Rashi from his son. I heard it from Rav Noach Weinberg years ago, also B'Shem Rav Noach Weinberg, that Rashi says he was a mammon ve'ein a mammon. When the Mabul came down, you can't convince somebody if you don't have conviction. If you don't believe in it 100%, try making a sale.
100%.
Yeah, try making a sale if you don't believe it. So I'm merely standing there saying the Mabul is coming. You believe it? He wasn't really 100% believing it anyway. Okay. He was trying to threaten them and, really get them to change their ways. Lo yifna derech kromim. But lamaisa, they weren't paying attention.
הרב מזרחי מחזיר בתשובה עם גיהנום.
Okay, Amnon Yitzchak Amken. Okay.
He stands at the door of Gehenna.
לא, הוא אומר להם...
No, he doesn't allow people who have a bris milah.
זה משהו אחר. הוא אומר לאנשים, תקבלו גיהנום, לא תשמעו שבת, לא תעשו זה, גיהנום. וזה עובד.
La yifna derech kromim, alamet shemefanav derech kromim, lamaisa. When Noach was talking to them, they didn't even pay attention to him. They were working on their vineyards. They're like, okay, the old man is talking again. Omar loi imima akiv. So they basically told him as they're like working their fields. No, so you're yelling and screaming about the mabel. No, who's stopping Hashem? Let him bring the mabel. Omar lahem pray the achas yesh loitzim mekem. Hashem told Noach to tell them, there's one tzaddik I still have. I'm waiting for him to die. After he dies, I'll bring the mabel, and that was Musu Shelach. Im Kain. So he said, if so, if there's anyone, somebody's holding back the mabel, so we don't have to do tshuva. And if we're not going to clean the weeds, so to speak, of our own ways. They were saying homiletically that we're not going to do tshuva. Dorish Rava, Maidich Ziv Lapid Buz LaAshtas Shannon Nochen LaMoide Rogel Melamed Shaynoich HaTzadik Mechia Chaysam Vayim Dvar Shem Kosher Klapidim Vayimavaz Noisai. He was talking fire and brimstone. Mamish, where do you get the expression fire and brimstone? Right here. Vayim Dvar Shem Kosher Klapidim. He was speaking to them words that are kosher. Klapidim. Lapid is fire. It's like a fire and brimstone.
Isn't it from stone on Mara? That's where fire and brimstone.
But where do you find somebody speaking fire and brimstone? Somebody speaking like that. Gemara's expression is dvarim. He's speaking like words that are kosher klapidim. And they would embarrass him. They humiliate him. Zaken, you old man. How old was Noach, by the way, when he built the teva? 500 years old, right? Was 500 years old at the time? I mean, people lived to 1,000. He was 620 when the mabel came.
Why didn't Hashem ask Mr. Shalach to build the table then?
Very good question. Why wasn't, if Mr. Shelach was such a big tzaddik, so why, Mr. Shelach was a big tzaddik, he held back the mabel.
He also enjoyed it.
His chus, you didn't tell me, he held back.
Noah is the biggest tzaddik of his time. He had such a big challenge, and Mr. Shalach had the same exact challenge, and he was such a big tzaddik, he held back the mabel.
Yes, Hashem waited for him to die. He was too big of a tzaddik for the mabel to happen in his lifetime.
Didn't he hold on to the table?
No.
That was Oig.
No.
Yeah. See, all of us, you guys know this Gemara. You learned Chilik before? Okay.
Everyone here is holding.
Everyone's holding. Zoket, they said, old man, Tevazu Lama, Amr Lama Kach Baruch Hu, Mevi Lechem Zamabel. Hashem is bringing the mabel. Amr Lama, mabel shal ma, mabel shal eish. If you bring a mabel of fire, yesh lo dover acher. We have protection. V'alisa shma. There's what we have called alisa. What is alisa? There's eish can't burn this material called alisa. Yeah? V'im shal maimu mevi. And if it brings...
A shade, isn't it?
Okay, something that is not flammable. Maybe it brings water. We have these metal covers that we can just cover the aretz, so the water doesn't flow upward. And if he brings from the heavens, we have like a sponge material that can absorb all the rain. So in other words, we're not afraid. We're prepared for the worst. Okay. You have your earthquake box over there in your closet. They got their. Yeah, have the mabel kits. Yeah. Amar lehem, who made even beta kver legelechem? Deich says, don't worry about it. It'll come from between your legs. Shenemer nochen l'maya de rogel. What does that mean, Tanya? Maybe a mabel koshem kshiv chazer. Shenemer nochen l'maya de rogel. It was as hot as shich vazer. It was boiling hot because it was mida connected mida. That's what the aveira was. Amar v'chiz the beroischin kilklu ba'aveira. A beroischin adainu was mida connected mida. Ksiv hacha v'yishoyku hamayim. Ksiv hacha v'chamas el shchacha. How do you know the water was hot? Because it says by Achashverosh, Chamas HaMelech Shachacha, his temper calmed down, it cooled off, and it says by the Mayim that the water cooled off. That means the water was hot. It was hot like Shich Vazera, because Mina connected Mida. What's the 7 days that we're talking about? After 7 days, the Mabel came. Meshelach died. Hashem even paid respect to Meshelach for 7 days, Shiva. It's another pshat. What's the Shiva Sayamim? The first 7 days of the Mabul, it's not that it waited 7 days for the Mabul to come. The first 7 days of the Mabul, Hashem was Meshana Sidrei Maseh Bereishis. Ha'isachama yoitzis mimarav v'shekaz b'mizrach. Instead of the sun rising from the east, setting in the west, it happened the other way around. Davar acher, shekol l'kam HaKadosh Baruch Hu zman gadol. Hashem waited 120 years. V'achar kach zman kotan. And he said, you know what, I'll wait just a little bit more, another 7 days. Come on, do tshuva. Hashem said, you know what, let me give you 7 kishmaka days, the last days of your life. I'm going to give you unbelievable days. You should understand what good I'm taking away from you. It's like first taste it, and then I'll take it away. That's more painful. Hashem gave him that 7 days. So we have a couple of pshatim here with the 7 days worth.
That the whole celestial system changed by the Mabul. Like it was Pangea right beforehand. Or there's a Shtieble that was Pangea, right? And then the continents broke apart, like as everything came up from underneath and broke everything apart, right? And then the sun and the moon and the stars were just over this like one continent because they had like what it was perfect weather all the time. It was 70 degrees all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, the whole time, before the Mabul.
The entire land.
Yeah.
Right? So it had to have been one ginormous continent.
Yeah.
Right? And the sun and the moon and the stars were just over this.
Yeah, because there were no seasons. The seasons came afterwards, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then the whole thing broke apart, and then that's when.
And that's part of what the Mabul caused. It like
The seasons came after the Mabul, I didn't know that.
yeah, it's a Torah. In the Torah, says that you'll have I forget the lashon of the pasuk, but yeah.
Bar mitzvah parsha. I don't remember.
Bar mitzvah parsha. Oh, it's the end of Noach,
I
right?
didn't learn that part.
Oh, you didn't like that?
It was Ele.
The end is all names. The end is all names.
All names. No, but until Noach, right? Until Avram. Yeah. So when is? So it's before the end. It's slightly before the end, after the Mabul.
Shishi or something.
Yeah.
The bagels, right? Everything.
Everything, yeah. Okay, so Los Angeles, all everywhere.
Why? No, but the
weather and the Michigas.
And the Michigas.
יש לו גם seasons פה.
Yeah.
בטח, יופי, יש winter, יש...
There's no seasons.
You think the four seasons know that the four seasons came after the Mabul?
I agree with you.
What about the
The what? The what?
On the East Coast there are seasons. Here there are no seasons.
There's no season. Pesach, there's no season.
Yeah.
Do you worry what you're gonna wear every day?
I'm with him.
כל יום אני...
You are like a model or something else. I'm talking about nobody cares. I don't. When I go to grab something, I just grab. I don't.
Okay, we have one viewer.
In the East Coast, like in East Coast, you have to look. What is the temperature? Oh, I have to do this. It's gonna snow. This. I have to do that. I have to shovel this. You tired. You go.
We have a viewer, by the way, on YouTube. He always comments on our shiurim. His name is Shai Art.
Right.
Shai Art. He's always commenting on our shiur. He watches the shiur and he comments. He enjoys it. So I just want to make sure that we get the daf done for him as well. Let's go. Okay, Zudig Gemara right there. So the Gemara says that Hashem said, bring 7 pairs of 7 from the behemoths at Tahiris. Gemara asks, Ish ve'ishtoi? There's Ishas. When behemoths get married, there's a husband and a wife by behemoths. Ishas lebehemoth nami isla. Gemara said, Mi isla, is there a behemoth? In other words, only those that didn't do an aveira. Menoyah, how did Noach know? Noach brought them by the Pesach HaTeva. Kol sha'ateva kalatatoi b'yidush not aveira. Anything a teva would open its doors for and would absorb, didn't do an aveira. V'chol she'ein teva kalata b'yidush not an aveira. And also, the other sign was they came on their own. There was instinct. I said, that's a goyfer. My goyfer, mavliga. V'amrila gulamish. Certain 8's called mavliga, or certain 8's called gulamish. You got to ask your local contractor.
Kites v'chayfer v'yam v'lo yishbaisu. That's what you.
Oh, kites, yes, lo yishbaisu. So yar tasla teva omer Rabbi Yochanan omer lakadosh baruch hu Noach kavah ba'avanim tevs margolim terem iris lachem katzarayim. You have precious stones, and that will light up the taiva. You have an amma on top of the roof, right? It's not going to be completely diagonal. It's not going to be completely meshupa. The ba'achi dekaima, that's better for the teva. It's more durable. And this way, the mayim will flow off of it. You have 3 floors. Tana tachtim la zevel. The bottom floor was for the zevel. Amtsoyim la behema od yonim la adam. Vayshalachas ha'orev, says the Gemara, Noach sent out the orev of the raven. The first time, Amrish Lakish, Tshuva netzachas hashiva orev l'Noach. There was a Tshuva netzachas, a winning argument the orev had. Amalei rabcha sinani ve'atas neisana. You hate me and your master hates me. From me, you only take 2. From the Tahirin, you take 7. So he is playing favorites. V'sheleyach min shnayim. You leave over what you have more of, the shiva, and you take from me, which is less, which is shnayim. If something happens to me, don't you think that the world will be missing one min? Shouldn't you rather take from the shiva, from the one you have more of? Where it says, or maybe you want to marry my wife, the Erev says. This is an unbelievable Gemara. The Erev
was jealous of Noah. He was suspicious that Noah was...
Yeah, he was suspicious that Noach wanted to marry Mrs. Raven. It's unbelievable. Amar Loi. So Nev said...
אתה יודע למה? כי הם היו עושים לפני המבול, היו עושים להם העורב.
נכון.
אז הוא חשב ככה.
Oirev, Ma'urev. Maybe he was the one that he was... Taroivis, yeah. Russia, b'mutter nesar li, even what's mutter to me, my wife, was usher the entire days of all the days of the Mabul, and you're choshid b'nesarli loikoshkin, you think I'm going to do something wrong. If I couldn't be b'mutterli, certainly I'm not going to be with someone's b'nesarli. Wow, sheesh, very nice. Umanolan the Nesru, how do you know that they weren't allowed to be on the teva together with their wives? The chsiv, what a diak. Look, Chazal, nothing escaped their eyes. It's unbelievable how they saw it in the pasuk. It says, Ubasa la teva, atavanecha ve'ishtcha shevenecha itach. So the way it says it is, it separates the men from the women. Ato banecha, separate. Ishtcha shevenecha, separate. The women are separate. When it says, iksiv tzeimen ateva, it says when you leave the teva, it says, ata ve'ishtcha, uvanecha shevenecha. So the Gemara says, Mekan, from this diak, the way the Torah puts it in the order, different orders, Shenasar b'tashva shamita. Tanu Rabbana, Shloisha shimshu b'teva. 3 were Meshamash in the teva, Kulam laku. Unbelievable. The kelev, the dog, the good dog. The dog you were talking about over here, right? He was Meshamash on the teva, V'oirev, and the Oirev, Rabbi, like you're saying, V'cham, and the son of Noach. Kelev, the gzeir of the kelev was Nikshar, he's got to be on a leash. You got to put them on a leash, right? That's what I'm telling these people. I was just on a trail today, and they're letting the dogs off the leash. I was like, put him on the leash. It's the gzeir of the kelev.
Did you not learn Daf?
Did you learn Daf Yomi? Come to the Daf, 411 North Detroit. Yeah.
You should tie the owner over there.
It's not the owner that's leading the dog, it's the dog that's leading.
That's exactly right. Pnei Adork and Pnei Kelev. Oirev, rock. The Oirev has to spit the zera mipiv lapia shel nekeva. That's how it reproduces. V'cham loka ba'oiroi, and cham became black. All right, became dark. V'shalachas yoyna meito liris hakalo amayim. Amrabiyah mekash dos oifes taharim mitzadikim. As a yoyna meito, you see that the oifes taharim dwelled together with the tzadikim, together with Noach. I'd rather have bitter food like a zayis, and I should come directly from you. And I don't want Noach to feed me good food in the teva. I'd rather be out and have food from you.
How does that go with what you said a few years ago from, I forgot who it was, and you said you'd rather go work at 7-Eleven and make honest money than,
No, fakert. That's exactly what we're saying. We're saying go take whatever job. No, it's your own. It's your own. It's your own ma'aseh yadayim. It's your own handiwork. You're earning it. You're not receiving it as a gift. The Yoina was receiving from Noach the food every day. He said, I'd rather not. I'd rather fly around and find what I find directly from Hashem. My mashdai Torah flishna b'zaynu d'chsiv hatrifeni lechem chuki. So you see, hatrifeni is a what's it called? Can we go 2 more lines or no? Only v'loy hem. Okay, we'll stop over here. Okay, shkoyach ever.